Soo-A entered Hae-Song's house. In the dark, she saw a glimpse of a person passing by, then she met a masked man. Of course Soo-A panicked. She wanted to call someone, but the man wanted to grab her cell phone and a fight broke out between them. Because he was cornered, the man then took one of the knives in Hae-Song's house and stabbed Soo-A's body, and ran away. Not long after that Hae-Song arrived. He saw things scattered in his house. He suspected something was wrong, then he found Soo-A lying unconscious. Soo-A was immediately taken to the hospital to undergo surgery. She was accompanied by her mother and Hae-Song. Hae-Song looked worried and he also felt guilty for not being able to protect Soo-A. Jung Hoon and Mi-jong arrived at the hospital and asked about Soo-A's condition. Fortunately, Soo-A did not suffer any fatal injuries. But she was not yet conscious. Mi-jong explained that they had investigated it and the crime scene had been processed. It turns out that the perpetrator is an amateur because he left his DNA all over Hae-Song's house. Then team leader On also came, but here Hae-Song seemed reluctant to talk to him, because he still suspected that team leader On betrayed to Myung-joo. Hae-Song only told him that Soo-A's operation went smoothly, and asked him to go back inside. Team leader On asked Hae-Song to go home and rest because he seemed to be sleep-deprived. Team leader On and his team would be in the hospital and take care of Soo-A. However, Hae-Song ignored the advice and he would still stay there and asked team leader On not to pay too much attention to him. At school, the students were waiting for Hae-Song and Mrs. Soo-A. They didn't know what happened to their teacher. For the time being, Rian replaced Soo-A as their homeroom teacher. At the hospital, Soo-A was still unconscious. Hae-Song held Soo-A's hand and apologized for not being able to protect her. Meanwhile at school, the students just found out that Miss Soo-A was being treated in the hospital. However, they did not know why she was being treated. However, the students were surprised that Hae-Song was the one who brought her there. Moreover, lately, the two of them have often been together like a couple. However, their assumption was denied by Yana if it was just a relationship between a teacher and a student. She asked her friends not to make bad rumors and always watch their words. Yoo-jong also agreed with Yana on this matter. Then Yoo-jong and Yana left the classroom. Yoo-jong thought that Soo-A and Hae-Song being in the hospital together was a natural thing, not a big deal. It could be that they were there together, maybe just a coincidence. Yoo-jong said that, because she kept Yena's feelings for Hae-Song, but Yena told her that she still liked Hae-Song, but now she would forget about him, because it seemed that Hae-Song was not interested in her. Yoo-jong was happy to hear that. Then Yena invited Yoo-jong to watch a movie after school, but Yoo-jong didn't want to because she would go home from school and prepare herself to take part in the math competition which would be held soon. This time Yoo-jong would study very hard, and Yena had to do her best if she wanted to beat her. Meanwhile, Soo-A had started to be conscious. She was getting better and Hae-Song didn't need to worry about her. Soo-A heard what Hae-Song said earlier, if Hae-Song really regretted it that much, so she asked Hae-Song to be nice to her. There, Soo-A told Hae-Song that there was a teacher who often did exam scandals at school. That teacher was Lee Jun-ho. Jun-ho was a math teacher and also a supervisor during the exams of all those competitions. But Hae-Song, who knows that Soo-A just woke up and shouldn't think too hard, he asks Soo-A not to think too much about this for now, and Hae-Song will handle it later. Then Hae-Song gets a call from Jung Hun if he already has a DNA analysis report from the perpetrator of the burglary. However, there is something strange. Because it turns out that the one who broke into Hae-Song's house is Jun-ho, an mathematics teacher at Byeongmoon High School. Jung Hun is curious why Jun-ho broke into the house, but Hae-Song doesn't answer and asks Jung Hun to watch him well for now. Then Hae-Song thought for a moment to dig up what Jun-ho's purpose was in breaking into his house, and he used a knife that Hae-Song had at home. He didn't bring a weapon, implying that stabbing Soo-A wasn't part of his original plan. He must have been looking for something in her house. It turned out that Jun-ho took notebook of Hae-Song's father. And Hae-Song immediately speculated that behind the theft of the book, the mastermind was Myung-joo. Then Hae-Song and Soo-A made a plan. If they had to catch Jun-ho and make him testify to NCO Myung-joo leader, who deceived the students and mock-f them. Meanwhile, Jun Hae handed over Hae-Seong's father's notebook to Myeong-ju. It turned out that Jun Hae wanted to steal the book because he was also threatened by Myeong-ju, and after he succeeded in stealing the notebook, he asked Myeong-ju to keep her promise, which was to keep his name a secret from the cheating scandal at school. In addition, Myeong-ju also promised not to tell him to engineer the exam again. However, after the incident of stabbing Soo-A, Myeong-ju had a hard time keeping his name a secret. She even called Jun Hae a psychopath. However, Jun Hae was still sure that Myeong-ju would protect him, because if he was caught, it would also make things difficult for Myeong-ju herself. After Jun Hae left, Myeong-ju opened the notebook. It turned out that she wanted to open it to find out about the fourth mystery story in Byeongmoon High School, and she had to be disappointed because according to the information in the book, no one there knew about the fourth mystery story. Then Yena came to her mother, if in the upcoming math competition, she wanted to compete fairly this time. She will win on her own without the help of her mother's manipulation of her grades. However, her mother seems to disagree with Yena. She likens Yena to choosing a dangerous path on the edge of a cliff, even though there is a safer path. Then Yena reveals her reason for not wanting to be embarrassed. As her mother's daughter, she wants to hold her head high, and asks for permission to fight alone in the math competition. Principal Park, who has been beside them, suggests that this time Myeong-ju should probably follow Yena's request. Principal Park is sure that this is the first time she has asked for something from her mother. It will not be easy for her to come to her mother like this. And Myeong-ju herself also has high hopes for her child. However, Myeong-ju, it seems, is not used to accepting advice from anyone. She still orders Principal Park to make Yena the champion as previously arranged and find someone to replace Jun Hae. When Mi-jong and Young-hun watched Jun Hae walking alone, suddenly he saw Jun Hae being approached by Principal Park and asked to get into his car. Mi-jong then told the incident to Hae-Seong, and Hae-Seong was a bit surprised because Principal Park moved faster than he expected. Then he asked Mi-jong to follow them because Jun Hae had to be caught alive. It turned out that Principal Park took Jun Hae to a recycling place for used goods. Jun Hae himself asked why he was taken there, but before he knew the answer, he had been injected with anesthesia by Principal Park until he passed out. Then several men carried Jun Hae's body and Principal Park asked the men to put Jun Hae's body into the car that would be put into the crusher. On the other hand, Mi-jong and Young-hun saw the actions of Principal Park and the men. Young-hun assumed that the men were going to commit murder. Mi-jong knew that if Hae-Seong would not come on time, then she and Young-hun would stop them themselves. Young-hun was pessimistic because they were outnumbered, but they couldn't let that happen. Finally they dared to fight the men, and the result was of course they lost and were put in the car with Jun Hae. They then shouted for help together, which unknowingly, the scream could wake Jun Hae up. The car was then lifted by a forklift and put into the crusher. Not long after, Hae-Seong came and met with Principal Park again. This time, he asked Principal Park not to run away. And there was a fight between Hae-Seong and the men, while Principal Park watched and pressed the crusher button and threw it away. Long story short, Hae-Seong was able to defeat them and rescue his friends. On the other hand, Myeong-ju looked upset. She called someone but the number she called was not active. Meanwhile, Hae-Seong brings Jun Hae in front of Soo-A. Soo-A asks why Jun Hae could do that to her, and it can be called a mistake, including the scandal of his actions that he did at school. Jun Hae explains that Myeong-ju told him to do everything and he had no choice. Soo-A tells him that Jun Hae still has a chance to atone for his actions. She asks Jun Hae not to miss that opportunity. Hae-Seong is called by Young-hun if they have handed over Principal Park to the police. Then he asks what Hae-Seong plans with Jun Hae. Hae-Seong tells him that he will hand him over himself. Hae-Seong then takes Jun Hae to a place and asks him to stay there until tomorrow. Forbids him to go out. And asked to hand over his cell phone, so that Myeong-ju and his men cannot track him. Then Hae-Seong calls team leader on if Seo Myeong-ju is involved in the scandal. Hae-Seong thinks he can prove it. The accomplice in the scandal. It turns out, he is Jun Hae, the man who stabbed Soo-A. For now, Hae-Seong is holding him in a safe house. If the police interrogate him tomorrow, so Myong-ju will also be forced to be interrogated. And if the score manipulation is known to the public, so all the VIP parents will withdraw their support from Seo Myong-ju's project. And finally Seo Myong-ju and her education city plan will be over. Now, Soo-A has returned to actively teaching at school. Kim Rian noticed that Soo-A's face looked small and beautiful. Soo-A also said that she was still a little sick, but she was fine. Meanwhile, Myong-ju entered her room and was surprised because Hae-Seong was already in it. There, Hae-Seong joked that he knew a lot about Myong-ju. He knew who in the NIS was working with her, what Myong-ju wanted to do after finding the gold bars, and what she wanted to achieve. Hae-Seong knew everything. But there was something he didn't know. Namely, why did he have to do the surgery, and what really happened to his father? However, Myong-ju had not told him the reason. Hae-Seong then showed a news, namely Jun who surrendered himself to the police, and said that he wanted to reveal the truth behind the school grades scandal. He would tell the police everything he knew, including the attempted murder of himself on the orders of his leader Myong-ju. Hae-Seong thought Myong-ju would be afraid to know the news, but she thought that if Hae-Seong was too amateur and boring, Myong-ju would not panic just because of the teacher's confession, and she thought it was not a big deal. Then Hae-Seong showed a flash drive given by Jun Ho as evidence. The flash drive contained about the cheating of grades that was completely arranged by Myong-ju. In addition, Myong-ju also incited the attempted murder. Once the police reinvestigate the case of Kim Hyun-ho, the school security guard, then Myong-ju will also be punished for it and will be imprisoned for at least 10 years. The police will come soon, so Hae-Seong asks Myong-ju to prepare herself mentally. After that, Hae-Seong knows that Myong-ju's cell phone is ringing, then he leaves. It turns out that the one who called Myong-ju is Sun Jae, Hae-Seong's father who has been missing for long times. Myong-ju is actually going to look for Hae-Seong who has just left, but at the same time the police have arrived around her. Meanwhile, the students are shocked by news of grade manipulation at their school involving teacher Jun Ho etc., so that the students know that their school has manipulated student records, which will affect the results of the university entrance exam, including various competitions whose winners have been determined from the start, and at this time, the teachers at the school are busy receiving calls related to the news that is blowing up on social media. Out there has been controversial news that Myong-ju tried to kill Jun Ho, a school grade scandal and alleged incitement of several murders by leader Seo Myong-ju, which is now unclear. Meanwhile that Yina just kept quiet and pondered what would happen in the future. Sun Jae was called by his father that he would be transferred abroad, but he himself was not confident because he could not speak English well. On the other hand, Principal Park got out of the police car with a view of both his hands already handcuffed. Meanwhile Myong-ju was already on the interrogation table. Then she was approached by Director Kim who showed a news about Education City in crisis. Investors withdraw. The situation did not look good. All projects related to Education City had been cancelled. Now it seems that the parents have also washed their hands of the case. In addition, Myong-ju's position is no longer safe. Director Kim jokes that Myong-ju has no solution to solve this problem. And now he realizes that Myong-ju has no way to keep her promise, therefore, there is nothing that Director Kim can help, except giving a business card of a very great lawyer. But Myong-ju laughed at him. She felt that the director just left her. However, Myong-ju seemed to be an expert in this matter. Director Kim thought she could not do anything when she had lost everything. At that time, Myong-ju threatened Director Kim with more cruel treatment because he had dared to betray and leave her. Meanwhile, Hae-Seong and team leader On were eating together at a stall. There Hae-Seong said honestly that he had previously suspected team leader On after he found a file about himself on Myong-ju's computer. But now Hae-Seong already knew that the NIS member who betrayed was not team leader On but Director Kim. Then team leader On told him that on the day Hae-Seong's father disappeared 22 years ago, Hae-Seong's father had called him. He said they had to meet because he wanted to say something about Director Kim. Team leader On hesitated after the phone call. He should report it or not. Team Leader On also doesn't know what mission Hae-Seong's father is doing. Finally, Team Leader On came late and couldn't meet Hae-Seong's father. Meanwhile, the vice principal held a meeting with the teachers. As they know, something bad happened at the school. Everyone called to ask who the VIP parents were and who received special assistance. The school was in an uproar. He was the one who handled the case. He asked the teachers to control each class so that they don't spread baseless rumors. Tomorrow, the Department of Education will send a vice commissioner. That means we need one of you to prepare for the visit, then show them around. At that time, Soo-A stood up to not be elected, but surprisingly the vice principal considered her ready to be the one to take the vice commissioner around her school. Meanwhile, when Yi-na was in the library, she heard students gossiping that Sung Jae from class 2 had dropped out of school to study abroad. He was involved in cheating on grades. The students wondered how something like this could happen. And what's wrong with Myong-ju conspiring to kill? Considering all that, when her mother was in trouble, Yi-na still came to school. The students were sure that her grades were also cheated. Because according to them, the principal would not help everyone except his own child. But their gossip before going anywhere was stopped by Soo-A. In the schoolyard, Yi-na scratched her arm harder, then she was met by Soo-A. Soo-A understood Yi-na that she was currently sad and her life was hard, but she was still strong and fine. Yena knows that her mother's actions are wrong and she herself does not know that her grades are rigged. She knows she can't be free from her mother's crimes. And she understands why the students badmouth her. Soo-A then comforts her. Yi-na doesn't have to be responsible for her mother's actions, because it's not her fault. Meanwhile, Hae-Seong is still looking for the fourth mystery story. He began to get a bright spot when he observed a painting at school. Then he contacted Team Leader On, if the first part of the clue, the person with the beads. It was Seo Byeongmoon himself. And Hae-Seong thought that meant the gold bar was where he faced the red sun. They have to investigate it immediately. The next day, the deputy commissioner of the education department group arrived at the school. The teachers, Soo-A, and the vice principal were shocked, because in the group there were leaders Myong-ju and Principal Park who according to them were currently being held by the police. There Myong-ju smiled sarcastically at Soo-A. Soo-A looked scared and knew she was not safe at the moment. And at the same time, Hae-Seong also came there. Myong-ju immediately came to him and tore Hae-Seong's name from his uniform as a sign that Hae-Seong had been expelled from the school.